Getting ready to put the oil pressure regulating valves on. A couple things I just wanted to point out. There was a service bulletin. Let me pull that out of the way. Well, first off, this is still on the engine stand, so it's upside down at the moment. But maybe I can flip it over in editing. But anyways, one of the service bulletins on the 2050 and 2150 was this galley here, and the hole down at the bottom is your bypass hole. And early engines didn't have it a big enough hole, and so in cold weather, when the oil was really thick, it would create excessive pressure. Even when the bypass opened to relieve that pressure, that hole down there was just too small to take the flow, and so you'd get high pressures, and that would start making head gaskets and other places leak because there was just excessive pressure. So if you're rebuilding one out of a 2050, 2150, something to look out for is what size that drain hole is down there in the bottom. Then something they probably don't have, they added later on. There's two different gaskets, but there's a seal here, and then what there is a check ball, and there's a spring behind this ball. And the idea behind that was the ball, when you shut off the tractor, the ball seals against the seal, because this is where the oil comes from, from the other side, from the filters and oil cooler. Comes in, pushes that ball out, and finishes its travels. But when you shut the tractor off, the spring pushes the ball against the seal, and hopefully keeps the oil filter and cooler from siphoning back down in the crankcase, so that you have more oil and less time during startup where you're dry or not pumping oil to the bearings and stuff. I don't know, I'm not 100% sold on how well it works. It seems like there's times I'll start it and you can kind of hear that clattering, that the oil pressure and the gauge hasn't come up, and other times it comes right up. So maybe the ball doesn't always seat right on the seal or what, but I got a brand new seal in there, got everything cleaned up in the housing here. So I just gotta bolt it on and oops, keep it lined up right. I got my sticky gasket sealant on there to help hold it in place. And I'm definitely gonna need two hands to do this. So let me see. I think that'll work. These later ones also have a couple little roll pins in them. The later gasket has more of a cutout for the seal, roll pin holes. So you gotta get those lined up. I'm guessing that's to keep it lined up better with the, I'm just trying to make sure the ball gets in the, yeah, darn it, into the seal. Then I gotta make sure gasket, maybe I'll put the gasket on this since it's got the roll pins on it. That does make more sense. Then I can just get the ball, start it against the seal, and wiggle it until I get the roll pin holes lined up. There's one, there's two. Cool. The top two bolts here are where I mount my added on aftermarket fuel pump. But I'll add that on later. Yeah, just kind of going to be sticking out in the way, so it won't take long to spin two bolts back out, mount it, and put it back on. For now, I'll tighten them up so the gasket can crush and seal good. I did disassemble this regulating unit just to make sure there wasn't any crud that somehow or another made it past the pump and the filters from all the damage, and there was no sign of anything, nothing glittery, nothing hanging up. So I think the filters did their job. There. Getting closer all the time. Putting the sending units back in here. This one is for the oil pressure gauge. Come on. There we go. If you ever want to check these, or a quick check anyways, only a single wire goes to it. And what this does is as pressure comes up, it loses or has less resistance, and so it completes the ground for the gauge and the needle moves up. So if you want to test your gauge or do a quick test to see whether maybe it's your gauge or your sending unit, just take a wire and go from somewhere on the block to ground that post out and have someone watch your gauge, and it should go up to full or 100% or whatever, and full pressure. If it doesn't, something's wrong with your gauge. If it does, chances are it's the sending unit right here. The other unit, just getting a little pipe sealing on there. This is also oil pressure, but this is for the idiot light. There's a buzzer and an idiot light that light up and buzz if oil pressure gets below a certain set point. I don't recall what it is on this engine, but anyways, so that way, you know, there's plenty of things to watch while you're farming, and so you can't always be watching your gauge. If pressure suddenly drops off, light lights up and a buzzer goes off so that you know to shut her off. That's what this one is, and it's the same thing, completes the ground, but this one doesn't. It's basically a yes or a no type of thing. Either it's got a ground or it doesn't, and either the light and the buzzer turn on or they don't. So once again, you can run a wire from this post somewhere on the block, and that should, with a key on, it should make the light light up and the buzzer buzz. If it don't, then there's something wrong either with your buzzer, your light, or the wiring in between. If it does, then you're fine, which when you turn the key on, the light and the buzzer should come on automatically because there's no pressure to this. The engine ain't running yet, so that's your system checking away. If they ain't working, then could be this, but more than likely they're not getting power or some bad wire. But a quick check would be to ground this post out and see if they do buzz, and then you know you need to switch this unit out. Gonna get these lifters in. The order on them doesn't matter because they're brand new. But if they were used, you want to put them back in the same spot they were because they get wear patterns to them. Get some this assembly lube grease stuff on them. And down she goes. Oh, and this stuff, well, partially I ran out of the red stuff pretty much, but this is a little more like grease, which it's going to stick on the cam surface there better for a little longer. Try this again. There it goes. Got where the water, the coolant goes in here in this slot. So you can't reach around from the other side because it's closed off. Okay. There we go. Last one. Okay, some of you are wondering what these wrenches are. And this one has no marks on it. This one is a Snap-on M4201. It's 7/8. I've ground it kind of thin, and that way when I go to retorque the heads with the rocker assemblies on, I can't remember, it should just fit under there and I don't have to pull the rockers off to retorque the head. So, let's see, I'm gonna get my book over here. Yeah, it doesn't, it's kind of fat, it doesn't as well, down on that one as well. The book says use special tools WF-1106 and WF-1007. And it's probably at least one of these. Like I say, I cannot see any markings on this one. All right, well, start out at 40 foot-pounds. let's see, final torque, 147 to 150. We'll go right for the 150. And the heads are torqued. It's starting to look more and more like an engine. Stay tuned. She's coming together. And thanks for watching.